quiet revolution, embracing softness in a hard world. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I want to begin by acknowledging someone whose insights have profoundly shaped today's talk. Recently, I had the privilege of interviewing Mahonale Waters, a remarkable woman whose journey from relentless high achiever to advocate for radical self compassion has been nothing short of transformative. Mahonali's work in helping Black women reclaim their right to softness has created ripples of healing across communities nationwide. Her courage in challenging cultural expectations and her dedication to creating spaces where vulnerability is celebrated rather than penalized makes her one of the most important voices in the wellness movement today. Through her soft girl era movement, she has literally saved lives. Women who were on the brink of physical and emotional collapse have found their way back to themselves through her teachings. What I'm about to share with you stems from our conversation, and it challenges one of the most pervasive myths of our time, a myth that has particularly burdened Black women, though its tendrils reach into all our lives. Here it is, the myth of perpetual strength. We live in a culture that glorifies resilience to the point of self destruction. We celebrate the person who never breaks, who keeps pushing through, who handles everything without complaint. We've turned strong into the highest compliment we can offer, especially to women of color. But what if our obsession with strength is actually making us weaker? What if our refusal to embrace softness is the very thing preventing our growth? This isn't just philosophical musing. The consequences are written in our bodies, in our rising rates of chronic illness, in our frayed relationships, in our collective exhaustion. Let me share some sobering statistics with you. According to the American Psychological Association, Black women experience higher rates of psychological distress than any other demographic group, yet are among the least likely to seek mental health support. Research from the Black Women's Health Imperative shows that chronic stress contributes to Black women dying from heart disease at rates 50% higher than white women. And a study from the University of Michigan found that Black women are perceived to feel less pain than white women, leading to significant disparities in pain management and treatment. Behind these statistics are real women, mothers, daughters, professionals, caregivers who have internalized the message that their value lies in their capacity to endure, to keep going, to never complain. This is what Mahonal calls the superwoman syndrome, the expectation that Black women in particular must be eternally strong, infinitely resilient, and endlessly available to others while neglecting their own needs. But strength was never meant to be our permanent state. Think about it in physical terms. When you're strength training, the muscle doesn't grow during the lift, it grows during the rest period afterward. Without that recovery time, you don't build strength, you create injury. The same principle applies to our emotional and spiritual lives. Constant strength without softness doesn't make us more powerful, it makes us brittle. I witnessed this firsthand when meeting with Janelle, a 42-year-old executive who came to one of Mahonal's retreats. Janelle had built her identity around being the unshakable one, the woman who could handle a demanding career, care for aging parents, volunteer at church, and never miss her children's events. She wore her exhaustion like a badge of honor. I don't have time to be tired, she would say, until her body made the time. A minor heart attack at 42 forced Janelle to confront a devastating truth. The strength she prided herself on was killing her. As she told me through tears, I spent so many years being strong for everyone else that I forgot how to be gentle with myself. I didn't even know who I was beneath all the doing. What's fascinating is how deeply this pattern is embedded in our collective psyche. From an early age, many Black women receive clear messages. You have to work twice as hard. Never let them see you sweat. Be strong for your family. These aren't just casual suggestions, they're survival strategies passed down through generations. And they made sense. In a world structured by racism and sexism, strength was indeed necessary. But somewhere along the way, what began as a strategy became an identity. What started as armor became a cage. During our interview, Mahonale shared something profound. She said, "The most revolutionary thing many of us can do is to allow ourselves to be soft in a world that demands our hardness. This isn't about abandoning responsibility or dismissing the very real challenges many face. It's about recognizing that true power includes the full spectrum of human experience, including vulnerability, rest, and the courage to say no. It's about understanding that softness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Consider the natural world. The strongest trees aren't the most rigid, they're the ones that can bend in the storm. Water, perhaps the softest substance we know, can carve through rock given enough time. Softness contains its own kind of strength. So, what does this soft girl era, as Mahonal beautifully frames it, actually look like in practice? I want to tell you about Keisha, a community organizer who had been fighting for environmental justice in her neighborhood for 15 years. When I met her, she was running on fumes, exhausted, resentful, and questioning whether her work mattered at all. "I feel like I'm pouring from an empty cup," she confessed. Through Mahanal's guidance, Keisha began implementing what seemed like radical changes. She started saying no to evening meetings twice a week, non negotiable. She delegated responsibilities she'd always handled personally. Most challenging of all, she began asking for help, something that felt almost like betrayal to her activist identity. 6 months later, the transformation was remarkable. Not only had Keisha's mental health improved, but her organization was thriving. By creating space for others to step up, she had inadvertently built a more sustainable movement. "I thought my strength was in doing everything," she told me. "But my real power came when I started trusting others and honoring my own limits." This is the paradox at the heart of the soft revolution. When we embrace our need for rest, we become more effective. When we honor our limitations, we expand our impact. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we discover our true resilience. Let me be clear about what this softness revolution is and isn't. It isn't about escaping responsibility, it's about sustainable engagement. It isn't about selfishness, it's about self preservation so you can continue to serve. It isn't about weakness, it's about a more expansive definition of strength. Mahonal shared a powerful affirmation that has guided her journey. "I am worthy of rest. I am worthy of peace. I am worthy of joy, not because of what I do, but because of who I am." This simple statement challenges centuries of conditioning that has tied Black women's value to their utility, their productivity, their capacity to endure. But what would our world look like if we all embraced this truth? If we recognize that our worth isn't measured by our output or our ability to withstand hardship, I believe we would see a profound transformation, not just in individual lives, but in our collective well being. We would see workplaces that value sustainable productivity over burnout culture. We would see healthcare systems that take women's pain seriously. We would see families where caregiving responsibilities are shared rather than defaulting to women. We would see communities where vulnerability is met with compassion rather than judgment. And perhaps most importantly, we would see a generation of children growing up with a healthier model of strength, one that includes the full range of human experience. This isn't just about personal wellness, it's about cultural transformation. Because the truth is, our glorification of relentless strength doesn't just harm individuals, it shapes systems, it justifies exploitation. It normalizes the unequal distribution of care work. It perpetuates the myth that suffering in silence is somehow virtuous. Breaking this pattern requires both personal and collective action. On a personal level, it means examining our own relationship with rest and productivity. It means noticing when we're wearing busyness as a badge of honor. It means practicing the sometimes uncomfortable art of receiving support. On a collective level, it means creating structures that support well being rather than extracting maximum effort. It means challenging the assumption that those who have historically carried the heaviest burdens should continue to do so. It means recognizing care, including self care, as essential rather than optional. As Mahonale wisely noted in our interview, the soft girl revolution isn't about pink aesthetics or speaking in a gentle voice. It's about a fundamental reclamation of our humanity, our right to have needs, to experience joy, to prioritize peace. I want to leave you with the story of Dr. Maya, a physician who attended one of Mahonala's workshops last year. Dr. Maya had spent decades priding herself on her stamina, working 70-hour weeks, being available to patients at all hours, pushing through illness and exhaustion. I thought that's what dedication looked like, she told me. After a particularly grueling year during the pandemic, she found herself unable to feel anything, not joy, not sadness, just the pervasive numbness. It was her body's way of saying enough. Through her work with Mahonale, Dr. Maya began the slow process of reconnecting with herself. She started with 5 minutes of mindful breathing before each patient. She scheduled actual lunch breaks. She turned off her phone on Sundays. These changes weren't easy. She faced resistance from colleagues, from patients, even from herself. But gradually something shifted. Not only did her own well being improve, but she became a better physician. I listen more deeply now, she said. I'm present in a way I couldn't be when I was running on empty. This is the power of softness, not as an escape from responsibility, but as a pathway to more authentic connection, more sustainable impact, more genuine strength. So I challenge you today. Where in your life are you confusing endurance with strength? Where have you made hardness your default? What would it look like to grant yourself permission to be soft, not as an indulgence, but as a necessity? This revolution begins with a single radical act, believing that you deserve gentleness, that your worth exists independent of your productivity. That rest is not a reward, but a birthright. It continues with small daily choices, setting a boundary, asking for help, prioritizing rest, celebrating joy. And it ripples outward, creating space for others to do the same. The world doesn't need more martyrs to the cause of perpetual strength. It needs whole, well rested humans who understand that true power flows not from depletion, but from replenishment, not from rigidity, but from flexibility, not from constant doing, but from mindful being. This is your invitation to join the quiet revolution, to reclaim your right to softness in a hard world, to discover what becomes possible when you put down the cape and pick up compassion for others, yes, but first and fundamentally for yourself. The soft revolution is calling, and it begins with you. Thank you.